Hello everyone, this is Adish. I'm a grade 10 student from Mumbai. I qualified for IOI Training Camp 2021 and the American Invitational Math Exam 2021 in ninth grade. I'm currently an expert on code forces with a max rating of 1748, and I'm also a 4-star programmer on CodeChef with a max rating of 1965. Welcome back to CodeChef's YouTube channel. Every week we post video editorials to CodeChef problems. We also hold live problem solving sessions and post content related to various topics in competitive programming. So here's a reminder to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Now that you have subscribed to the channel, let's get started with today's problem. This problem is taken from International Coding League 2019. This problem is a cakewalk problem and the problem code is ICL1902. The only prerequisite you need to know to be able to solve this problem is basic math. So in this problem, we are in flat land where circles are trying to form a nice formation. So initially, we have n circles and we need to form squares using these circles. A square of side s requires s square circles to create, and we basically need to break down these n circles into s square circles, and this means that a square of side s has been formed, and s is the maximum possible length for a square, so we always need to choose an s which is maximum, and s square is less than or equal to n, and we need to repeat this process until there are 0 squares or 0 circles left. So we need to find how many times we repeated this process. So the number of squares formed is actually the number of times we repeated this process. So that's what this problem is asking us. So to better understand the problem statement, let's break down this problem statement into 3 parts. So first, we know that we are starting out with n circles, and at each step we choose the largest square which we can create from these n circles. Then in the second step, we are basically assigning this side length of the square to be s, and basically we are choosing the largest s such that the area of the square, which is s into s, is less than or equal to n. Then in the third step, we know that we have n minus s square circles left, and we repeat the problem from the first step again. So let's better understand this by looking at the sample test cases for n is 85 and n is 114. So when n is 85, we choose the largest s such that s square is less than or equal to 85, and this can be found out to be 9 because 9 square is 81, which is the largest square which is less than or equal to 85, and 10 square, which is 100, is greater than 85. So our s value is 9. Then we basically have n becoming 85 minus 81, which is 4. Then we choose s to be 2, and for the same reason that 2 square will be less than or equal to 4 and 3 square is greater than 9, I mean greater than 4. 3 square is 9, which is greater than 4. Hence the resultant value of n will be 4 minus 4, which is 0. And as you can see, we had two steps. This is step 1 and this is step 2. And this means that our final answer is just 2 for the first sample test case. And you can verify that this is correct. In the second sample test case, we have n is 114. So working in a similar manner, we see that our first value of s will be 10 because 10 squared is 100 and 11 square is 121. And we know that 100 is less than 114 and 121 is greater than 114. So our value of n will become 114 minus 100, which is 14. Then in the second step, we know that our value of s will be 3 because 3 square is 9, which is less than 14, and 4 square is 16, which is greater than 14. Hence, our value of n will go from 14 to 5 because we basically created 5 circles. We used 5 circles to create one square of side length 3. Then we choose s is 2 for a similar reason, that 2 square is 4 and 3 square is 9. And our value of n will go from 5 minus 4 to 1. And in the last step, we take s as 1, and that is because 1 squared is 1 and 2 squared is 4. And 1 is less than or equal to 1 and 4 is strictly greater than 1. Hence our value of n will go from 1 to 0 because we basically subtract 1 squared. And hence we can see that in this process we used 1, 2, 3 and 4 steps, and hence the answer for this sample test case should just be 4, and you can verify that this is also correct. So now that you have understood this problem statement, let's make one key observation, and that key observation should immediately come to you from the problem statement itself, and that is, what is the value of s? So the value of s is the smallest number such that s square is less than or equal to n, and that can be found by taking the square root on both sides of this inequality. So if we take square root of s square is less than or equal to square root of n, and this means that s is less than or equal to the square root of n. So we just need to choose an integer which is less than or equal to square root of n because s has to be an integer, and that's evident from the problem statement itself. So let s be the smallest integer which is less than or equal to square root of n. And now if you recall what floor and ceiling functions are, you should immediately realize that floor of some number, let's say square root of n, is the smallest integer less than or equal to that number, and in this case that number is square root of n. Hence we just use this function floor of square root of n to find the value of s. So hence we just obtain that s is floor of square root of n. Hence once we have found the value of s, we basically decrement n by s squared and repeat this process while n is greater than 0. Because why s squared? Because we know that s squared circles are required. So s squared number of circles are required to create or to basically form a square of side s, and since we use s squared such circles, n will decrease by s squared. And why do we repeat this process while n is greater than 0? Because we know that the moment n becomes 0, all the circles are over, and hence we basically terminate our loop, or we basically know that all our steps in the process is over. So now that we have understood the basic algorithm, let's look at the code. So in the code, first I use basic input output and I take in the value of n. Now I'll create a variable count, which is basically the number of steps to reach 0 circles, or the number of steps before n becomes 0, and this is also our final answer. Now while n is greater than 0, we basically need to find the value of s first. So as discussed, s is just the floor of square root of n, and that's the side length of the square which we'll take. Then we basically decrement n by s into s, because that represents the number of circles required to form a square of side length s. And we increment count by 1 because count is the number of steps we repeat this loop. So the number of steps in the whole process is count, and hence we increase count by 1. In the end, we just print the value of count, which is our final answer. So let's just submit this code to see that it gets accepted. So as you could see, my code got accepted. I hope you like this problem and my solution to this problem. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you had any doubt regarding this problem, do drop a comment down below. Also, do consider writing your own code and submitting it on CodeChef now that you have understood the full solution and that you have seen me write the code for this problem. To stay notified of our upcoming videos, subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon below. Also, you can join our Telegram channel to receive daily updates, and the link to that channel is in the description below. So thank you for watching this video.